It's... Welcome back to another installment of Bierke Butte Camp. I'm Mr. Bierke, and today we'll be taking a look at Etude 1 from the 2020 Texas All-State Etudes. First and most importantly when working on this etude, don't freak out. There are lots of leaps and high notes and clef changes, but these are all manageable if we work on it in chunks. Let's start off by getting comfortable with the bass clef notes. To read in bass clef, what I find most useful is to pretend that we're reading the notes in treble clef, move the notes up 2 notes, and then down an octave. For example, the second bass clef note in bar 5 looks like an F in treble clef, but we're actually going to play an A flat because of the key signature, and then move that A flat down an octave. It may help to think just line note moves to the next highest line note, or space note moves to the next highest space note. With this in mind, let's talk through the bass clef note names in bars 5 and 6. We start off with the treble clef B flat on beat 1, then we switch to bass clef for beat 2, and we have what looks like a G, but we're going to actually play, can you tell me? A B flat. The third note looks like an F, but we're going to play an A flat. Same as beat 4, but it's going to switch octaves. In bar 6, we have what looks like a low E, but we're going to play a G. This G will be fingered 1 and 3, by the way, with no thumb. When figuring out the rest of the bass clef notes, remember, line goes to line, space goes to space. Next, I'd like to talk about some general low range tips. First, the lower you go, the touchier the horn gets about mouthpiece pressure. It's very likely that you'll need to pull the horn away from the face a little bit on the very bottom notes. Second, be aware of what your jaw and embouchure are doing. As I go lower, my jaw comes down and forwards. This lets the bottom lip come in front of the top lip a little bit, and I also feel more side support on my top lip, like it's trying to get narrower. I also supplement this motion with a pivoting of my lead pipe with the anchor point on the top lip. This will be exaggerated, but it's essentially just going. Third, feel like you're yawning inside of the mouth. We need a very open, round syllable shape inside of our mouth, like what we naturally do when we yawn. Notice the upwards, sideways, and backwards expansion when you're yawning, and replicate that feeling when you play down in the low range. Last, make sure that your air is hot enough. Down at the bottom, our air should feel like we're trying to heat up our hands on a cold day. So hold your hand in front of your mouth and see how hot you can get the air to come out. Just make sure it's the same type of air when you're playing down there. In review, watch for mouthpiece pressure, jaw and embouchure setting, yawning feeling, and hot air. Down on the 4th and 5th lines, as well as the 8th and 9th lines, we have essentially a staccato interval exercise. I would highly recommend practicing these in a very legato style at first, in order to feel the air connection between the notes. Make sure it feels like one big connected air gesture blowing all the way through the whole phrase, rather than a notey or choppy scattering of disconnected pitches. As you add more space between the notes, remember to keep the air support muscles engaged the same amount in between the notes, even if technically the air stops. On the second area, the one that keeps going down to the low C, make sure to implement the previously discussed low range strategies of watching for mouthpiece pressure, jaw and embouchure setting, yawning feeling, and hot air. At the end of this etude, we have some pretty high notes. My biggest suggestion for high range playing is to make sure that your air is coming exclusively from below your belly button. If you feel any muscles higher up in the torso trying to move sideways to control the air, redirect that sideways energy downwards. We only want to push with a low bracing feeling, like what your body naturally does if somebody was about to punch you below the belly button. To help get more comfortable with this air support feeling, shove your hand in the belt, and then using that low bracing feeling, blow as much air as fast as you can through the horn, like this. Focus on keeping everything low, including shoulders, and don't let the bracing feeling rise any higher than the belly button. After you're used to this air support feeling, if you have a high note coming up, make sure that your air support muscles are prepped early for that high note. That way, you just need to make the air faster for that note, rather than having to make the air faster and setting up the air support muscles. Which reminds me, use more and faster air than you think you need to for the high range. This instrument can suck in a lot of air, so find out where its limit is. Also, when playing above the staff, make sure that the tongue rises up a bit. We want our high range syllable to be D, D-E-E-E-E, as this creates a smaller resonance chamber in the front of the mouth, and it makes the air come out faster. Last, when going high enough, it may be helpful to actually open the jaw a little bit. It's really easy for the buzz to get sort of distorted, like it'll get squished that way or that way. And so if we open our jaw a bit, it'll be easier to keep it round. In summation, blow more and faster air than you think you need from a low bracing point below the belly button, making the syllable D with a raised tongue while opening the jaw a tiny bit. I'd now like to play this etude twice, once at a practice tempo and once at full tempo. While listening, follow along with your music, finger through, and feel what your air support muscles will be doing in each section. Here we go with the practice tempo. 1 and 2 and 3. the tempo up from whatever you're comfortable with at the moment, eventually aiming for a performance tempo like this. 1 and 2 and 3. I hope this video has been helpful, and if you have questions about anything discussed here, leave a comment down below. To close, I'd like to hand things off to my friend Sheev Palpatine. He has an insightful story to share.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of
not blowing enough air through the horn?
No, I thought not. It's another story that
Band directors.
I could tell you.